Friday, July 7th. So today we have the moon in Sagittarius energy all day. However, we are going to see the moon in Sag go void of course at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and here's the kicker. We will not be locking into Capricorn energy until July 9th at 4:55 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, another huge window where the moon is void of course. Now, again, I'm going to welcome you to listen to the Ascension forecast for this week, because we've kind of talked about how this is a power up situation this week, and then a power down, and then a power up and a power down. This is helping us to recalibrate these new energies. And of course, with all of the voids that we've been experiencing as of late, that is giving us a little bit more of an opportunity to kind of power down and float with the energies, with the emotions, with the thoughts that of course get triggered and activated when we're powering up. Now, that being said, today is a monumental day in the astrology world because we have Uranus, the Great Awakener, moving out of Taurus energy that he's been in for like 7-8-ish years. And we are dipping our toe into the Gemini energy. So this is a pretty big deal. There is an astro forecast out for this particular event that you can take a listen to just to kind of get an overview of what we can expect. But I'll summarize for you. We have to expect the unexpected. That's just the vibe, just the energy, just where we kind of have to have our heads be at, because heads are about to spin, heads are about to turn, heads are about to pop off with this particular energy. And so again, I would also welcome you to take a listen to the 2025 year ahead overview that gives you a little bit of a bigger, greater, grander perspective of how all of these major heavy hitting planets moving into different signs and then eventually retrograding, what that actually means for us, specifically wrapping up the second half of 2025, which of course is the year of 9, where endings and closures have to take place in order to set the stage for more permanency that is coming at us here in 2026. Though there's a lot going on, we're not going to underestimate these particular energies. We have never experienced these particular energies in our lifetime, and so we have to show ourselves and other people a little bit of grace. With all of that being said, there are 10 different aspects popping off here today. 6 of those aspects are going to involve the moon. Little bit of a reminder here, the moon in Sagittarius is as optimistic, is as confident as we can get. We need to pluck out the silver linings. We have to flip our anxiety and fear into excitement. We are looking for our truth, for a deeper meaning, deeper purpose, not only for our lives, but to understand why some dominoes had to fall in the way that they did in order to land us here in this present moment. So there's definitely a lot going on just with the moon being in this Sag energy, specifically in relation to being in Cancer season, because Cancer season is illuminating for us where a new emotional foundation has to be built within us. And of course, in order to do that, we have to be standing in our authenticity. We have to be standing in our truth. And that's where it's all kind of pointing us. We have to focus on uncovering, unearthing the falsities that are essentially preventing us from living as authentically as we are meant to live. So let's jump into it. We have the moon in this Sagittarius energy sextiling, which is a beautiful interaction with Pluto, the great transformer himself, who of course is currently retrograde in Aquarius energy. So we already know that this is going to be a beautiful interaction. First of all, a sextile is kind of nudging us in the right path, the right direction with a sense of ease. We're also dealing with fire and air. And so there's going to be a spark, a combustion point, if you will, a realization on seeing the truth of the matter. We have Mr. Pluto. Yes, he's retrograde, so there is an internalized assessment going on of our fears, doubts, and insecurities, of our self-sabotaging programs. But Pluto also tends to reveal hidden details, hidden information, hidden perspectives, hidden truths. And typically speaking, they've probably been in front of our face the whole time. We just haven't had the eyes to actually see it. But either way, when you have this type of information coming right at you in front of your face, you can't run, you can't hide. What you got to do is you got to flip the script to make it work for you instead of making it work against you. A sextile just means that we are going to, again, tap into the optimism, to those silver linings energy that the moon in Sagittarius gives us, and double down on realizing what actually makes sense to us, what is our truth, what we feel in alignment about. We then have Venus, the goddess of love, beauty, worth, pleasure, and money, fresh in this Gemini energy, making a beautiful interaction with the North Node in Pisces energy. So we're dealing with mutable signs here. Gemini energy, Pisces energy are both mutable signs, which means that we're in flux. We're experimenting, we're exploring not only with what and who actually matters to us in our heart space. That's what Venus is all about, trying to kind of really whittle down and kind of remove the junk and the gunk, if you will, in order for us to start seeing, visualizing very clearly the path, the direction that we need to be walking. That's where that North Node in Pisces comes in. And so because this is a beautiful interaction, there is this amalgamation between what we hope to be true, what we're imagining to be true, what we are trying to manifest versus the Gemini energy, which is basing everything on fact. And so there's this blending of energies, especially in our heart space, where we're getting real and raw and vulnerable with the matter of facts, who and what needs to stay, needs to go, and what our hope, what our vision, what our goal, what our dream now is when we kind of remove those particular factors out of our physical realm. 3:50 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Uranus moves into Gemini energy for the first time in 84 years. This is a monumental shift. We are definitely going to feel it in our central nervous system. Again, please listen to the Ascension forecast for this week to understand fully what is going on in the physical body due to the energetic shifts taking place in the cosmos. This is a very big deal. Again, we have a lot of shadow work that's going to be a different illumination under this particular influence in order for us to clear out that junk and gunk, to have the space to actually manifest something new. And there's going to be a lot of new coming at us with Uranus in this Gemini energy. We then have Venus, the goddess of love, beauty, worth, pleasure, and money, in this Gemini energy already, because of course, remember just a couple of days ago, Uranus and Venus had their conjunction, their reset point, opening up a brand new chapter for those two particular planetary aspects at that 29th degree of Taurus energy before Venus dipped out of her rulership and set up camp in this Gemini energy. We have Venus trining, which is a beautiful interaction with Pluto, the great transformer himself, who is retrograde in Aquarius energy. This means that we're dealing with like-minded elements, air on air action. So this is all up in the headspace. We are definitely rapidly processing in our headspace different perspectives, different ideas, different curiosities, if we will, to experiment and explore upon. Now, this particular interaction, yes, it's a positive one, but it's going to jack up our intensity to the absolute ceiling, meaning there is impulsivity, there is an intensity. We are borderline obsessed, either with a person, a situation, an idea, a circumstance, or a brand new vision. And the excitement that we feel being borderline obsessed with whatever it is, the object of our affection at this particular juncture, we want to share it. We want to just blabber on about it. We are essentially leaning into realizing what is going to bring us the greatest amount of happiness and joy, the greatest amount of safety and security, and we're hyped up about it. Let's just remember that there is an intensity that isn't necessarily anchored in reality. That doesn't mean that we don't want to, lean into the positive. Lord Jesus knows we don't get too many positive aspects that really kind of excite us. So we want to lean into it. But we also have to understand that the excitement, the borderline obsession that we're having probably isn't as attached to reality as we wished it would be. We're going to find that out later. However, this is going to help us put the tunnel vision goggles on so that we can stay focused on how we're going to pursue this new objective. So although we realize that we're probably going to have to grow up a little bit, boss up a little bit, do better, be better, we are going to also have to, because Pluto's involved, put an ending, a death, a closure to particular connections, paths, ideas, visions, relationships. Something that is exciting us as far as potentiality for the future goes requires us to cut something off that we're very overly attached to, probably that we've outgrown, that the old version of self was overly attached to, that again, new version of self has to be attached to because it's still kind of in our face. But now that we are experimenting and exploring with different ideas, goals, visions, dreams, suddenly it puts into perspective what is blocking us from totally 100% pouring ourselves into pursuing this new path. So there's a whole lot of strategy downloads that come with this particular interaction. It's almost like we can see the path clearly and we can see the moves that need to be made in a very methodical type of execution style in order for us to, again, equally, because we're talking about Gemini energy here, equally get rid of the old while inviting in the new. So yeah, there's going to be some aha moments. There's going to be some new insights that we're hella excited about, but we also have to keep in mind that it does bring a particular level of responsibility into the forefront on what we need to do that probably isn't going to feel good, cutting certain people, places, and things off. We're not doing that yet. So again, lean into the excitement, lean into the intensity, lean into the passion, because we get that opportunity to do that right now as we reframe what our potential future is going to look like. And from that, kind of reframe what needs to be done here in the present moment to clear out that particular space. Of course, just when things are going good, we have to have one particular aspect that's going to kind of poke the bear, rock the boat, so to speak. And it is the moon in Sagittarius energy, making the harshest interaction that you could possibly make with its own ruler, Jupiter. So Jupiter is the planet of growth, expansion, beliefs, abundance, and blessings. It's currently in Cancer energy right now, again, trying to grow and expand our inner realm of emotion, the emotional foundation, our ability to create a realm, a reality of safety, security, of happiness and joy, of comfort. And a lot of that requires us to get real and raw and vulnerable with who it is that we had to be versus who it is that we currently are and who it is that we naturally desire to be out in the world, so that, again, we don't feel this constant split between our energies, between our identities, between our heart and our head, our inner realm and our outer realm. So, of course, naturally, the moon in Sagittarius is optimistic, is confident, wants to dream a bigger dream, is on the quest for truth. Jupiter, of course, ruling over Sagittarius, wants all of those things as well. But when you mix fire and water, something is going to kind of bubble up and boil over. And emotionally speaking, we're not really feeling the vibe. We're not feeling hyped up. We aren't able to see the silver linings clearly. Again, let's also just remember that the moon in Sagittarius is very futuristically focused, while the Cancer energy that Jupiter is sitting in is so overly attached to the past that the one thing that is missing is being anchored and grounded into the present moment. And so everything that we feel right now is probably going to be a little bit more negative, a little bit more pessimistic than normal. And it's going to be an over-exaggerated state of emotion because Jupiter tends to magnify whatever it is that we're thinking and feeling. And right now we're just not thinking or feeling the best. Now, we don't sit in that for too long. We do have the moon in Sagittarius making a beautiful interaction with the sun in Cancer. So we know that anytime that the sun and the moon are coming together, there's going to be a level of awareness of what we want, what we need, what we desire, what we need to do to get it. Interestingly enough, we're still working with Sag, fire, and Cancer, water, but they're working well together. So this is when things get steamy. Things aren't necessarily going to boil over, but this is creative energy. This is passionate energy. This is excitable energy. And what we're realizing is that emotionally speaking, in the Sagittarius energy, we have a new goal, vision, and dream, but now we have to take a good look at our present moment in order to build the proper foundation, including the boundaries. In order to protect ourselves, we have to create and build and restructure and re-strengthen some particular aspects in our present moment in order to house the goal, the vision, the dream that we're excited to pursue. We then have the moon in Sagittarius trining, which is a beautiful interaction with Mercury, ruler of the mental plane, who happens to be slowing down because he is approaching his retrograde point. However, he's still direct and he's in Leo energy. So this is fire on fire action, and we love this because this is between our heart and our head. And we know that fire energy comes in, it burns through the junk and the gunk, it burns through the cords of attachment, and then it reignites the fire, the spark, the flame within us. Now, the moon is our emotions, Mercury is our headspace. They're working together to eliminate the old ass negative ass narrative, the old negative ass emotions and memories and junk and gunk that essentially prevents us from speaking our truth and for sharing our authentic selves with the people, with the world around us. Now, when it comes to communication, because we have to factor that in because we are talking about Mr. Mercury, he's speaking from the heart. He's speaking from that Leo energy. And the Sag energy is all about truth, but it can be a little bit scattered, a little bit all over the place. Either way, if you find yourself in a situation where you have an open line of communication, you're going to be talking about a lot of things that are very happy to that heart space, that you're very excited about, that you want to see manifest, that you're excited to experiment and explore. This is a hype type of conversation. But of course, we have to take a dive. The moon in Sag is then going to get into the boxing ring, square off with Mars. Mars being the god of war, ruling over our physical energy, our drive, our passion, our desire. He's in Virgo energy, the fixer, healer, repairer of the zodiac. We aren't seeing as much progress as we want to be seeing because, of course, the Virgo energy requires us to think very carefully, very methodically, very calculated about the moves in which we need to make, that we want to make before actually making them, which means that Mars is having to be patient, and that is not his strongest suit. Even more than that, we are irritable AF with Virgo energy, and Mars being the god of war, anything is triggersome to him, anything is activating him. We're picking things apart. We're breaking ourselves down. We're breaking our habits down. We're breaking our actions down. And it's just a whole lot of nitpicking, but we have to do that in order to realize what we're actually working with. And because of this high level of irritation, and because we're in a square highlighting where we're going through a growing pain, the growing pain here is that the Sag energy that the moon is in wants to focus on the big picture, but Mars in this Virgo energy needs to focus on the smaller steps, the smaller details that we have to make, that we have to kind of, manifest in order for us to even stand a chance of being able to manifest the big goal, the big picture, the big dream. So there's a little bit of conflict here. There's a little bit of frustration, a lot of irritation kind of bubbling up within us because we have ants in our pants. We want to take action and make moves, but those moves aren't going to equal the greater, grander vision that we just want to fast forward to. So there's a little bit of anger that gets kind of ruffled up in order for us to realize where it is that we feel blocked and challenged, where we feel like things aren't progressing at the speed in which we would prefer. But again, all of this irritation is going to kind of pull us back to realize that we have to trust the process. We can't control the process. Again, Virgo energy wants to micromanage everything. We can't control it all. We have to understand that there is a timeline, a greater, grander timeline that, yes, we are a part of, and that certain things can't happen until the collective can support that particular transition, not only on the greater, grander global stage, but for our own individual lives as well. 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the moon is going to shift into yet another long ass void. Things are going to be shaky, unstable, uncertain. We're like floating in the darkness, floating through emotions and thoughts that don't make a whole hell of a lot of sense. So just keep that in the back of your mind. The moon in this Sagittarius energy now in the void is going to make a very harsh interaction right out of the gate with Chiron, the wounded healer. So we're already losing our shit. We're already beating ourselves up, breaking ourselves down. We're already choosing to lean into worry and fear and uncertainty. And of course, that's not doing anybody any favors. We start losing the vision. We start losing the clarity, the excitement, the passion that we felt earlier in the day. And instead of seeing the option and opportunity for growth, for healing, for evolving, we are shutting down. We are picking ourselves apart, beating ourselves, breaking ourselves down. It doesn't feel good. It's not supposed to, but it also illuminates the shadow work that we still have to do. The last thing that we have going on here today is Mars, the god of war, ruling over our physical energy, drive, passion, desire, even our anger, in this irritable as F energy in Virgo, making a very harsh interaction with Chiron, that wounded healer in Aries energy. So first of all, I'm going to say that we're not emotionally present or available, but that's just because we're so overwhelmed with the not so great emotions that we start to disassociate and detach, probably for protection mode. What I would also want to say is that we're a little bit trigger happy with our insults, whether it be the narrative to ourselves or whether we're projecting that onto other people. And so it's super easy to kind of tick people off or to offend people or to feel ticked off or offended by other people. This is a very edgy type of energy and it doesn't feel good. And, we're all on edge. We all want to crawl out of our own damn skin. We're having a lot of difficulty actually staying grounded in the present moment. Everything is becoming a worry. Everything is becoming an anxiety-filled type of imaginary situation. And we're having a hard time actually pushing ourselves or asserting ourselves in a confident way, which means that we're just checking out. And sometimes we need to do that to protect ourselves from either, offing ourselves or offing other people. But at the same time, this is a beautiful opportunity to step back, to act as the observer, to realize what is irritating you to the point in which you're going to flip out and crawl out of your own skin. Because these are some challenges that we have to kind of face, especially in our external realm when things aren't going our way or we don't feel like we have power and control over them. Again, the whole point at this particular juncture is to move within yourself and make the appropriate adjustments or improvements so that you're not as triggered and bothered over external stimulation that you have no power and control over. So this is like a challenge that we are being faced with that doesn't feel so good. There's a lot of misunderstandings taking place within our own damn selves. Again, we're highly critical, super judgmental of ourselves, picking ourselves apart, beating ourselves up, breaking ourselves down. But again, we can come into a lot of beautiful insight about some triggers and activations that are still alive and well that we have every opportunity to work on. So although it is not the greatest way to be wrapping up the day, it is setting us up for a very interesting day here on Tuesday, where the moon is going to be void for the whole freaking day. And it's a semi-quiet day in the cosmos with only 5 different aspects taking place. So again, like I previously mentioned, this week is about a whole lot of energy kind of pushing us into powering up. And then we get stunted out, the power gets flipped off, and then we power down, and then we power up again, and then we power down. So this is a great example of that. Pay special attention to your energy and really check in with yourself to see if you can feel the change, the shift of powering up versus powering down.